Hi, everybody. This is Joanna. Thank you so much for tuning in. What a gorgeous day. Thank you. Everyone's in the house. Councils of Light. We've got some special guests with me this week, and they've been with me for a couple of weeks now. So those of you that can perhaps read and feel energy, you might feel them behind me. They're a very big energy, and I'm getting used to having them here. I haven't felt them in a couple of years, so I'm really happy to have them back. So I'm very grateful. My beautiful family from the Orion star system. And wow, what an exciting time. We wanted to bring forward, it's been so busy this last week, and I've had so many beautiful activations and so many awakenings. But what we wanted to bring forward in this early morning Ascension show is something that I'm not really that interested in, to be quite honest with you. But my teams have been kind of preparing me for the last couple of years to talk more about these topics, and that I'm not not that well versed, but perhaps they're saying that I know more than I think I do. I don't know. Maybe it's on other timelines. I've got these experiences, but in this timeline, I just want to create like the little fairy that I am. I want to be out on Gaia plane. But they test me to tap into these experiences so that I'm expanding and being well versed and well rounded as a part of a beautiful divine feminine leader. And the topics that we're going to talk about today is again, we've talked about it before when we were talking about the idea of control and how our society has understood the idea of control, and how we're so easily giving our power away to systems that are rather illusory as our world is kind of breaking up, and we're having to kind of choose from this new space of spirit, and how do we create anew. And those of us that are code breakers, or those of us that are on the kind of the front lines, we really want to create these new things. And so this is why they're kind of bringing these beautiful experiences in for me. Thank you, in the highest respect, to bring forward these musings so we can start thinking and wondering and pondering with great excitement. You know, what's our next step? What's our next step? Let's commune. Let's see how higher vibrational beings from other planets, in alignment with light systems, in alignment with light evolution, what are some ideas and what are some things that we can get excited about? And of course, one of them that they brought up to me in regards to that control, and how we've normally just handed our power over to systems, if you will. And these systems are arbitrarily doing whatever they do in, political and government offices. And we're just assuming that the country and whoever we are as a people are being run with our best and our highest interest. And we obviously know that that's not the case. I assume that some of their intention is the political leaders and those that go into office, that is their, I would hope that would be their intention when they're running for office and doing whatever they do. Again, it's not my I've tried to stay as far away from it as possible, because, as I said, I'm a creator, and I find that my energy goes far more farther in systems that are not so steeped in, red tape that is a lot of smoke and mirrors. And this is what we want to get to. These systems are now breaking up. We find it within our I'm just going through the throat clearing, so thank you, Spirit. We find it in our personal relationships. All that is smoke and mirrors and that is not fully transparent are all breaking up. It must. And so to come to the reality of the truth of the truth of the experience and situation for humanity, how can we move in a completely transparent way in all facets as much as possible? I mean, of course, we're not going to change everything overnight, but how can we live as transparent beings right from the get-go, and therefore start creating systems that are transparent, that are beautiful and sacred, and serve the greater good through the intentions of being sacred and transparent. And so that's where we got to start. We got to start at transparency and sacredness, because we are, if we so choose to view ourselves and perceive ourselves as a one unity, as a one collective, it's to know each other as oneness. Because as we create a system, if you will, and we're going to probably step aside the ideas of system and understand that we're co-creating a reality of oneness and unity. So whatever it is that we co-create for one another, have it be a flowing experience of energy, and then see what happens. So release our 3D experience of what we know systems to believe, government, parties, you know, medical, educational, all of these things that we've always done. And so let's perhaps just throw off all the boundaries and throw off all the words and the hats and just create something totally new as a free-flowing experience. And so let's just try and see if we can wrap our minds around what they gave me this morning as a channel. And so the councils of light and the highest councils of the evolutionary programs were offering me the oligarchy systems, which we often say it's a democratic or it's a republic experience, but essentially most of them are run as oligarchy systems, which means that they benefit the few. They don't benefit the greater good of all of the people that are under these umbrellas of, you know, being systems of the people. And we all know that. I mean, all of us pay taxes and all of us see how much we get from our payroll and so on and so forth. So we're offering these not as solutions, we're offering these as musings for us to ponder, how may 5D look? How may 5D co-create and have an eventuation of smooth energetic flow? The energetic flow is remembering that we are in all of, in essence, oneness. So if we come forward in the essence of who we are as oneness, offering all that we are as creative beings of oneness, then everything in between that system of flow will be served. And so if each one does that, then each thing in that system will be honored and it will be served, because that's the elegance and the perfection of Source, Creator. Source does not offer a planet of 7 billion people without there being incredibly elegant, dynamic, creative systems of service, of offering and service, supply and demand, if you will. And we say supply and demand outside of what we know it to be 3D, because then it gets very dog-eat-dog world and very competitive, which are all the systems that we've come from. And so we want to step aside from that. But essentially, that's what it is. If you have a creative service that you're so excited to offer, just again, not in what you can get for it, not in what you can build around it, but just to be happy being you. If you offer those in the perfection of what you've come within, this perfect vessel of God's creative gifts, Source creative gifts, Spirit's creative gifts, it's an elegant, perfect system. You are an elegant, perfect system. So if you are operating in the elegance of the freedom and the consistent flow of your perfection, then all that you are as a system of body, member, micro, macro will be served. So how can we kind of mirror this into the potentiation of 5D systems, if you will, that serve the greater good of people? Could it be a system of flowing so that everyone that comes forward in this new system of settlements of light and cities of light, perhaps they could offer the creative gifts of who they are and have it be an equal opportunity for those too that also need and provide that service? Because that's what we're doing as light workers. We're now awakening to these deep and beautiful, powerful gifts of who we are as multidimensional cosmic beings from many different planets, from many different forms, and our DNA is being activated, our intelligence is being activated. All that we are is being activated to come in, anchor into this now moment to be all that we are anew. And all of the gifts that they're showing me, that before when I was opening and they were saying, "Oh, let's talk about, you know, your systems," and I was like, oh, you know, because it's not my most favorite topic, because it's just how we've been brought up, because it's not anything like what it could be. And that's why we have those beliefs and those perspectives. So I'm learning everything just as we move along. But in many of the systems, I am an ambassador of light and peace, meaning I go to war-torn systems and planets to create peace. Well, how do we do that? Well, we look at the very core of it. Can it flow in a more organic experience so that everyone is offering and everyone is receiving? And isn't that the way when we're just offering one another to one another? Isn't it also the same as we're offering ourselves a source to source, with source, as source? Again, it's always, Source is the perfection and elegant system. However, we've been brought up in these systems that say that, A, we're not attached to Source. We have to go outside us for Source. The heavens is above us, not within us. We are separate as those beautiful golden spheres as being it. It is us. So if we understand ourselves as the flowing system of perfection, are we not just creating systems of flowing perfection? But in these systems, we've given our power away to say that, no, we need governments to run us. And we have absolutely no idea what the governments are doing. And most of the time, so listen to what they channeled with me. And so we're just giving you these as these musings. And again, let's open up our minds and our hearts to see, how can we be doing things a little bit differently in these new settlements of light and these cities of light that we're co-creating through our consciousness? Because everything will have to be rewritten. So let's be open and excited about it. Let's start there. So we take a look at things like the interdependence versus independence, systems of light versus systems of competition. And aren't our governments most often than not, especially when you hear them at political, when they're running against each other. Isn't that what it is? We say running against each other. It's like a race. Why should it be that way? Aren't we all a people of one? We understand the minutiae of it, of course, and we could get into 8 long day debates on well, we have to have one system over another. Not really. Could it not be an under like a foundational process where it's just the receiving and the giving of the energy and the services within that? Because it's all just services. Services will create the goods that are required, and then that would create another flowing system. But we begin at the system of flow, of the organic experience of the creative gift being offered, and then the gifts being offered within that as other creative excitements, not how can I make more money off of this? See what we're saying? So this is a different way that we approach who we are and how we move in an organic experience of interdependence versus independence. Because they're very different vibrations, and you can feel into them as you're moving about the leadership of who you are, offering yourself as a fifth dimensional experience into how may I be excited to offer who I am as a beautiful creative experience of source. Because remember, if you offer in that equal measure of who you are as a creative being of source will absolutely ensure that you are threaded, and you will find, and those people will find you to be that equal opportunity of service, of that elegant flow. It is perfection. It's just the part of the perfect system that is source. Why are we getting in ourselves? Why are we getting in our own way to think that we have to create a system that is not that, where only a few are served and billions and billions of dollars are being wasted? And who knows where it is? Who knows where this money is? So this is what they were saying, interdependence versus independence. Because isn't that what we do when we're looking into releasing all of our outdated relationships as partners? And we're looking at, okay, well, they're no longer codependent and dysfunctional. I want a relationship that's more interdependent, where you are sovereign within thyself. And so is that other person. So you're equally matching one another at interdependence. One's not weaker and stronger than the other. You're equally matching, because that's the need. That's the need and the desire matching. Right? Systems of light versus systems of competition. Again, we're having to shift our perspective on who we are, what we are, and how we are now operating as beings of light. And this is going to come in key when we get to the next part here. As you break open what is at the core of your economy and your leadership structure, you will see that these have been run as businesses of counterproductive vehicles that optimize oligarchy and oligarchy motives that rarely serve the collective and the collective's wants and needs as families and children and adults and aged and tribes and very sacred people within this tribe and of our collective. Our collective is a tribe of 7 billion people. That's our tribe. It's a very sacred tribe with many ancient, powerful, wonderful gifts. Are we allowing ourselves to be awakened to this and to optimize it within one another? That free flowing of excellence, of just being who we are. And so that's big. So we'll read it again. Interdependence versus independence. Systems of light versus systems of competition. As you break open what is at the core of your economy and your leadership structure. So again, the leadership structure are what we've known to give our power away to the governments, which say they're Republican or Democrat and all of these names that we've given, but is it really? And is it just oligarchy, but just being kind of worn under a different hat, just to save face in a lot of, angry humans. You will see that. I mean, this is as we're awakening. We're just like, we're looking at our systems going, what were we thinking? You will see that these have been run as businesses, which is true. We all know that. I mean, it's just like the all the news that's coming out now about, light ships being seen, and all the stuff that they think they've hidden from us. Who are we fooling? We know that there's been very sacred and ancient life from all over omnipresent. We're surely not we're surely not the only life in our galaxy, in the universe. I mean, it's a system of elegance. Because aren't we looking at the idea that if there's 7 billion people on this planet, there's 7 billion people on this planet, surely we have from the infinite. I mean, 7 billion is so small number of people, right? Micro, macro. God knows what God's doing. Elegant system everywhere. It's been run as businesses of counterproductive vehicles to optimize oligarchy motives that rarely serve the collective. Governance of oneness and unity, in which brethren and sisters know of the challenges and come to optimize strength in numbers, common goals, intentions that open pathways of energetic flow through unity and, again, the natural energetic flow of the elegant system that is already. We are, as beings of human, put together, biochemistry, the electromagnetic. I mean, there's so much science and spirit that we are. That's why it's called the miracle of life. So if thus then it is us, the organic, benevolent flow, is it not that within our grander, micro, macro? And it is, absolutely. We just have to change our perspective, because since for thousands of years, we've given our power away to the ones that have said, well, I'm now running your community. Way back in the times when the Pleiadians gave me that first channel, I guess about a year ago, when I was asking them, where did control start from? Like, where was that original idea of the controlling body, if you will, the leaders, if you will? Where did that come from? And how did we just give our power away? Because we're now opening up to many of the experiences that our collective is now in ailment of, the many underground experiences that are serving no one and that harm, children, and human trafficking, and all the things that we've been doing that have been going on for many, many eons, but now is coming to the forefront because everything is transparent now. Well, how can we create systems that perhaps don't do that? And is it, my son just said that. So how is it possible that we can create those things? Is it possible we can create those things? Well, so Spirit was showing me this morning. Of course you can. I'm just writing to my son. I am recording. Stop loud gaming. He's playing video games. And so in that, how are we able to create a system from within the system of who we are as spirit? Because when we awaken into the omnipresence of who we are, if we can allow ourselves just to see any problem that we are allowing ourselves to perceive, observe in the outside, if you will, it is us. Remember, anything that we see as outside is only us. We're just allowing it its label and its title and its experience for who we are as a collective coming together as matter to co-create evolutionary expansion. That's essentially why we're all here, as the highest frequencies. We all choose to say, okay, we're going to come to this planet. We're going to create a lot of greatness. Let's expand with one another. I'm going to teach you a lesson. You teach me a lesson to see how we can remember ourselves as oneness. This micro macro experience of who we are as source, remembering ourselves as source, is an elegant system of its design. The cells know what to do if you want to entrain it to be awake with you. But we've been turned off for so many eons. The body is saying now it's just going into its natural state of de-evolution, which the cells do. They start de-evolving because of the density that the cells are wrapped within. It cannot capture the light that's sitting right there. Because you've told the cells that the cells are going to do what it's just replicated to do. And it's been replicated into de-evolved states. Because you're not speaking and being one with the cell. The cell in and of itself is source creator, is that crystalline energy of light. So if you're not asking that light to come in and be a part of you, if you're not commanding the epicenter of who you are, your consciousness is all things. Your consciousness guides how you replicate. So if you're not in training and being the commander of your consciousness, God, spirit, creator, then you are allowing your body just to continue to do what you were told it was to do in the little stories that you came within, and that you were wrapped within, and that you were projected, and that you're imprinted, and then so is the society, and so on and so forth. And so these are the things that we're in our everyday minutia as we're awakening to who we are as spirit. How can we look at all things that we think are outside of us, but they're just elegant systems of who we are within that we're now awakening? So how can we return it to elegance? How can we return it back to the surrender instead of surrendering it to systems that absolutely do not understand spirit, that have been disconnected from spirit and are again working as businesses? How can then we go within? Because remember, we are our consciousness of our systems. So as we raise our consciousness and we become self-directed, we become sovereign, we become the commandmentship of who we are as spirit, so too are we placing those energy experiences into Gaia. Gaia raises her vibration, and she then matches us with herbs and tonics and all that we need for our continued health and wellness. And so too do the emanations and the higher frequencies that we're garnering from our higher aspects, the higher self, as we're becoming higher and lower and we're harmonizing. And we teach that in our classes. So those of you that want to join us on our classes, the weekly and then the bi-monthly classes, we've just added a beautiful Divine Feminine, Moon Wisdom and Healing and Leadership class for those Divine Feminines that would like to explore, and men too, would like to heal the Divine Feminine energy and would like to be a part of Divine Feminine leadership and understanding what leadership is and how we're rewriting Divine Feminine wisdom and intelligence within our human collective. And so we've started that class. It's on the new moon and the full moon every month if you'd like to join us. And you can email me if you want to take part in that. And so we are the micro macro systems of energetic, beautiful flow and the elegance that Source is. Source is a beautiful, elegant experience. So allowing ourselves to know that we are Source, allowing ourselves to know that we are this elegant system. If we start tuning in and we start entraining ourselves that our cells are a part of us and we are commanding it through the consciousness of who we are, we become this new experience of light for our vessels and vice versa. Our vessels start tuning into the light that we're commanding of it. Our consciousness then says, okay, well, I'd like to see this about our experience as systems for our human experience. So how can it look like and feel like? Well, it's no different than the micro macro within. It's just going to look a little bit different because it's serving us in our micro macro that we're now awake to. Do you see what we're saying? So then they offered to me, we're going to read that last one again. Governance of oneness and unity. So when we look at governance of oneness and unity, is that what the experience now is that we're giving our power away to? And most often than not, we will all say no, because we see how they run in their political offices against one another. That's not oneness, even though they're all within the same country. So how can we start looking at how we are in the micro macro flow of who we are in a unique way that actually serves, our organic flow? There's a natural organic system, but we've been messing with it because we've thought ourselves to be separate from that perfection and elegance of the systems. You are an elegant system. Are you taking commandmentship of this elegant system that Source says you are an elegant system? You have access of your health. You have access of the profundity of who you are, your DNA, your crystalline energy, your experience of that crystalline energy as the Christ consciousness with the planet, with all that is. But can you take commandmentship of it? Do you want to? It's always free will, of course. So we are offering those that are on the forefront, those that truly want to get excited about who they are as Christ conscious, those of you who want to allow yourselves to tap into the allness that you are and entangle with spirit, entangle with guides, entangle with the fairies, entangle with who you are as celestial beings. Prepare yourselves for on and off world contact. That's the forefront. And in that, who we're giving our power away to will return to who we are. And then those of us that are honoring and in our own power will begin to offer potentiations of musings and offerings to how can we offer systems that are self and oneness within itself. So they will be also self-governing of oneness and unity. And some might say, well, that's preposterous. How's that going to happen? Because don't you need papers and people to administrate that paperwork and so on and so forth? Well, yes, but it will be within that natural organic flow. And so it's about our perspective of how we allow ourselves, again, take yourself out of that story. It's not there. The story is not there. There's a lot of people in that story that's not there. And that's okay, because that's where their story wants them to be. And that's where they've said, I'm going to stay here for a little while. Until they wake up saying, well, I'm 60 now and I'm not happy. And my body feels like, not very good, because it's been running in a system that is not organic and elegant within Source. It's been in a manufactured story that it now says, well, my body doesn't feel very good. And is this going to be, how I want to live day by day with no regret? So again, we're offering you these to muse. Our micro macro, what is your micro macro? Where is that divine elegance within the middle of it? Divine relationship. And so again, governance of oneness and unity, in which brethren and sisters, so of those that come together to say, we're here to help our collective, we're here to create systems and inspire and encourage and empower systems of oneness. We're coming together as a tribe of oneness, a tribe of light leaders. And again, we say leaders in that someone's got to start. We've got to start talking about this, just as the education system, which is coming up next. Brothers and sisters who know of the challenges, we know of the challenges we live in, because we've been through awakening. We've been through the dark night of soul, all parts of it, and every step in between, twice. We get it. We get what people go through. And how to optimize through strength in numbers, the common goal, and intentions that open pathways for the elegance of the already perfect energetic flow that is source, micro, macro. Because remember, we're talking omnipresence. When the councils of light come in and they connect with us, they're connecting us, thank you, Spirit, from the highest connection of what the elegant systems of source is, to thread us and show us back into the systems of light. So there's a whole infinite experience of systems that are aligned in the light through sovereignty of love and light and truth and oneness. It's not just an arbitrary system that doesn't know what it's doing. This is a universal light program. And they're trying to thread us up, but we haven't been awake to it yet. We've been still living in limitation, fear, control, and greed. So now that we're all awakened and we're now awake to these consciousness, well, what's the next step? Well, perhaps we can start musing about what does an elegant, organic system of flow that's perfect in all micro macro experiences, as the other councils are saying, well, we've kind of been doing it at a universal experience, so let's start inspiring. Perhaps what are some new ways that we can start thinking of, you know, the potentiation of humanity as awakened souls? And therefore opening pathways that inspire and encourage unity. Because again, it's that if you're living in your creative genius and being naturally who you are, you're going to absolutely call in those that would need what you offer. And that's just the elegant design of who source is, who you are as source through source. Because that's why our systems are so sick, because the spirit is warped and it's suppressed and depressed. That's what we're going to talk about in a minute. So when we're separate from spirit, when we are separating ourselves from spirit, when we are imbalanced in our emotions, our mental body, our spiritual body, our etheric body, our electromagnetic body, when all of these are out of whack, we then had to create systems of such things like pharmaceuticals. And we are understanding those experiences. And they're not serving these higher vibrational bodies now, are they? The synthetic drugs. Not all, but most are not operating within cohesion of organic symbiosis with the Christic light. It's just a different vibration. Same with the children. They're a completely different genetic experience. So how are we in their genetic brilliance serving them in offering them synthetic operatives that perhaps don't do a lot of good for them? And these are the things that we'll be looking into and breaking up and studying. Okay, well, let's look into higher vibrational holistic healings for these higher vibrational holistic beings. Again, micro, macro. It's an elegant, perfect system. We just have to allow ourselves to go within and say, yeah, I'm a part of spirit now, I get it. Because when I'm clicked in with spirit and I'm connected with spirit, I'm absolutely healthier. I've never been healthier in my life. I used to be completely what were those things called, puffers? You know, I used to have puffers and you know, every year get bronchitis and pneumonia before I was awake. And I haven't been on those since my son was born, 10 years. Because you just get in tune with your body and you just start clearing the stuff and the gunk that, why did I believe that I had to have those? Because they're all beliefs. The inner and outer is the same. Who you believe you are within will allow you to then harmonize with your environment, and why we've come with the experiences that we do within our bodies. You know, like my daughter with her experiential body. There's a lot of her, and many of us is high celestial and DNA. And many of my clients, most of the common threads that my clients say to me is that they're very hesitant and very unhappy about being here, because their genetic experiences within their bodies are showing them that they're not fitting into the environment. And so it's a multidimensional communication that occurs between the body and between the consciousness. And of course, some of the soul themes that they're here to transcend. And so their DNA is saying that it's not an environment that I'm used to, and it's very heavy and dense, and it's very separative, and my body is not feeling in harmony. It's because of all the stories that we've been taught and told, and the little insertions that we've been placed within, that we're not one with our environment, that we do not get encoded and reset with our biochemistry with Gaia, and we absolutely do, again, micro, macro. So it's, again, having to take our lessons and our blessings from those stories and say, well, I want to create a new story now because that's not who I am anymore. And you get to be in commandmentship. It's that inner outer excellence that source automatically operates with you. When you're in touch and you're doing your 15 minutes at the end of the night, your 15 minutes in the beginning of the day on your daily self-care, you're telling source and your teams and consciousness creates your reality. You're guiding and templating your consciousness to say, no, I'm a new being right now. Body, mind, spirit, and soul, I'm going to program myself anew. And you just do. And then you get to have that unique experience with source. It's an elegant system, but you have to activate it. You have to be the commandment of it. It, source, you, it. That's free will. Source provides that gift to you. Anything you want, equal measure, it will be laid before you, but you need to activate it. And so too are we at the collective level. Now the collective level is saying, now what? Now what do we do, collective? And those of you that are expired, and those of you that have come forward, that are really excited to start activating your destiny, then you start asking, okay, well, what are my threads and what can I do? And what about these few blocks I'm working on? How can I get busy? I really want to do this, really want that. Those are your creative gifts from spirit that are showing you, let's get busy. Let's start creating. And that's why we're here. We're a sacred tribe ready to create something new. And so they said, again, these systems from what we've done before, as far as the counterproductive vehicles that optimize oligarchy and motives that rarely serve the collective, we've been creating them because we've been creating systems as the means to the end. We create a system because, okay, well, there's a need, so let's create a system around it. And then there's so much bureaucracy, there's so much red tape, there's so much whatever the words that we want to use within this system, say system, it's not there. So much money and time and red tape, and we all know that what's out there. We all know what we have created. There's so much there. And when you look at it, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's been created to get to that end because people need money to live in houses and da-da-da-da-da. Well, what if we just change that? What if that end was different? Then that means would be different, because now we're operating from the organic perfection of the flow. Many people will be just selling their houses, and there'll be a lot of empty houses, a lot of businesses that will be empty. The big business building that we used to think we needed. No, they'll be used in different ways. They'll be used as these creative experiences where instead of, education, schools and things, there'll be these different pods where people will go create, and they will have these different varying experiences and be used in different ways. Because we're now returning to the organic flow of spirit. And we're going to have to start understanding and using what we've created in different ways so that they actually do serve. And all of the homeless people and these people that are leaving their homes, how can we reorganize and restructure our systems so that they're not owned by any banks and any again, smoke and mirror systems that aren't serving people, and yet there's so many homeless people. So how can we really start getting creative? And the number of children on the streets, how can we really start getting creative to create these systems of perfect flow? If there's infinite houses that are available and being foreclosed, how can we come together as a system and a body of light? How can we create systems of flow and oneness? Because we can. We absolutely can. There's infinite possibilities for us to reserve our intelligence into the organic flow of source and say, okay, teams, bring me some of these really beautiful ideas. What are some things we can start thinking about? Again, many of their systems are created because we wanted to get to that end point. But this is changing now, where every moment is the organic perfection of source. Let's start there. We don't necessarily get to the end, because that end is changing. Not everybody's going to want to have a mortgage and stay in one house forever and ever and ever, which is what we were taught and told. Those stories are no longer there. You can choose to be in one or not. Now that everything's changing, how can we think differently? That virus served us in so many ways, because it's saying, well, there is a perfect system if we want to tune into it. Or we can just continue modifying the old systems here and there, which is okay too. Remember, everybody will be on their own unique earth. And I'm on the one where we're going to create settlements and creators of light through us. And therefore, we're creating the enrichment of all and everything in between. When you approach any one thing within your experiential community, if you will, you can approach it within the intention to enrich the whole system, not as a means to the end. Remember, it's a system. It's a system of offering. It's a system of offering. Every point of that system offers, just as source does. And remember, we always do the Vesica Pisces, you know, the infinity. There's always going to be a part of the infinity that will be offering. Some person needs your offering over here, and then this person is served there because they have greater light, and this person is served, and that person is served, and that person is served. The planet is served. This person over there is served. The planet is served. The trees are served. Remember, when you awaken your consciousness, it affects everything in between. So you see the perfection of that elegant system that's right in the middle. That's source. Source will always feed you what is needed on all parts of it and everything in between, because that's source. See what we're saying? It's beautiful. So whatever is not working within these systems of what used to be competition and counterproductive vehicles, everything that wasn't working will be shown, because we're now looking at it from a perspective of it's a whole system of perfection if we so choose, and everything that's not working will be shown. And then we can say, okay, well, let's feed that one greater light. Just as if they've told me in the higher vibrational planets, any one person that's going through a challenge or a difficulty meeting that next level of consciousness light, there's elders and the healers and the leaders that come and take part in that person's advancement as soon as possible, because they know that that one person affects the all. So any part of that wheel that is not working will be bathed in light and shown its ability to be a part of the perfected experience, just as we are all awakening. There's not one part of the person on our planet that is not a part of the perfect system. See what we're saying? It's the infinity, and everyone is meant to be on every part of it in between. That's what Source is allowing us to understand and remember, because we were told that we were not. We were placed in systems where our voices were not valued. We were not intelligent enough. We were not smart enough. Our gifts were not used or needed. That we weren't beautiful and rich in who we are as creative spirit. That our gifts were weird and not wanted. So anything that we were taught and told are just illusory stories from people's attitudes and behaviors and beliefs that didn't understand who we truly are as spirit. And naturally, anything that's not working or not a part of the organic natural elegance will be weeded out and say, well, how can we then recreate it in its organic state? Or is it even needed? Like the big machines that create nuclear power. We're not going to perhaps need that if we're doing it from an organic system. That is, all that we need is on Gaia and should be not kind of taken outside of that. That is very potentially damaging and, nuclear energy. There's better ways. Do we really want to create such potentiations of, we've seen them in our creative collective, our history. So we really got to start coming to our hearts and saying, well, we are organic beings of perfection, micro, macro. So how can we now mirror that into a society and a unity and a collective and a sacred tribe where we can create that perfection and that mirrored elegance of Source? Because we can. So that we can naturally weed out and refine to that higher vibrational potential and experience. Remember, it's all the experience of Source. So how can we create systems of experience that are that natural elegance of perfection? Remember that as you become aligned as living spirit, so too will all of your systems, and they will become easier and more refined and more simplified in every way. Because as we're running as higher consciousness beings and vessels, we will not need any of this, a large aspect of what we've created. And then so many people in these systems that are making millions and billions of dollars a year are going to start freaking out and saying, well, oh my gosh, what does that like me? Well, obviously there's a lot of money that's been made from that. So why don't you put that money back into systems that really do need? That's how you can become a part of the collective resolve. If you so choose, many will choose not to do that. They'll just choose to, however, unless their soul's decision, I don't know. But there's an infinite number of things can be done, and everybody will have that soul's growth learning to choice to do that. Because remember, every opportunity and every soul has its own path and has its own lessons and things it's come here to learn. And so their guides will be guiding them. But there's an infinite number of things that we can do as these things break up. We could just use bits and pieces of it and create something new as a part of the organic system that is whole and transparent and honoring of the sacred system of the elegance of perfection that is Source, micro, macro. Separation of the spirit. So again, we're looking at who we are as consciousness being the micro and then the macro. So us is this consciousness experience of who we are as experiences of source are becoming more fluid in our creative reality, the systems that we've been taken from and have been taken from us, and we've just been giving our power away, not even knowing what's going on in that smoke and mirror experience. Separation of spirit, which is not possible. So if you think we've led ourselves to believe in these stories that we are separate from God and we have to go to church for God, and all of the things that we've built dogma around all these systems that are just illusory stories, and they're still working and they're still perfect and real. There's no judgment. However, it's not possible for us to be separate from spirit. Spirit's everything. God's everything, and everything in between everything. The cells of our health, everything that we are is the consciousness of source. If we so desire to be that self-directed being of light. We obviously, anyone that goes through the awakening process and feels lighter, you absolutely feel the alchemy of who you are, spirit. It's undeniable. You cannot separate it. It's impossible. We've always been spirit. We are more spirit than we are matter. We are spirit creating matter. And so thus then, how are we allowing to perceive our reality in a completely different way of the elegance of perfection? And so the separation of spirit, which is not possible, cause such disassociated systems that again become disassociated with its original intent. Instead of it being a system of perfection that serves the greater good and serves the all, it doesn't. It's a competitive system that is a vehicle of unproductive, of smoke and mirrors that serve the few, and they don't resolve the collective issues and the means to the end. And for the most part, they're broken and surely do not serve the greater good. As you align in light, much of the systems for the people will become that of light, holistic foundations, using the symbiotic natural flow and the perfection of source, the symbiosis of our planet. Why we're being so awakened and aware to the symbiosis of our planet now. Because we understand that, boy, we're living on her. We've got to kind of pay attention here. Oh, what are we doing? Hello, people. Hello. Wake up. You know, water on our planet is kind of important. You know, where are we on that? Just saying. And those that direct and guide and command such pricing in these systems of disassociation, because they've disassociated themselves from us, because they've been the leaders and we're just handing our power away, and so to our money and all of those other things that have come in the systems we've built. Which is fine, it's okay, there's no judgment. Again, we're only allowing you to see the potentiation. This is where we are, so what are we gonna do? How can we create something that's really cool? And then masterminding the supply and the demand, because all of these systems have created the supply and the demand. The means to the end, they've created it. The systems have created their own supply and demand. Such as the idea of keeping people sick. There's many of the experiences on the pharmaceutical and medical experience where there's absolutely healing properties that are already known for many of our illnesses. And so how is that, how can we look at that in a greater light? How can we look at that in greater truth and honesty and transparency? Are the systems transparent? And how does that feel for you when you're reading things and when you're hearing things and when you're moving about your own day where you're handing over money and power? How can we return it back to ourselves and saying, well, you know, perhaps we can start, you know, writing some letters. Again, it's not protest, because if you're protesting something that doesn't belong to us, these systems belong to us. We created them. We givingly our power and our money away, you know? So how can we be more aware of it and say, okay, well, maybe there's something different that we can be doing. Again, there's nothing wrong about any of it. It's all right. Just various versions of right, various truths and depths of right. The transparency will show you what needs to be sussed out and say, okay, well, are we serving the bodies, and can there be other things that we can do in this perfection of this holistic flow? And obviously, yes, there is. There absolutely is. And so the masterminding the systems, right? Masterminds that serve the systems because it serves them. And they've created supply and demand. They've created systems that allow people to stay sick, through which those pharmaceutical experiences are needed. They've created their own supply and demand. Same with oil. Is oil going to be the future of our fuel and needs? No, it won't be. But or can we come out of that and say, is there something different? Well, yeah, we're going to be teleporting by then, bilocating, right? So source is, right? A breatharian, source is. Not that you have to be, but those are just examples. And because not everybody's going to want to bilocate or teleport or just dematerialize. You know, so we're saying that there's an infinite number of potentiations. Is it within the organic flow of who we are as source? Is it aligned with light and truth and oneness? And that's what's breaking up. And because, again, they'll be synonymous of the broken systems that are obviously oligarchy, because they're not serving the all. If there's systems that we have that keep people sick and keep people in need of the demand, and the demand of the need, is that serving within greater good integrity? No, it's not. It's not. Especially if you've had family members that have passed away because of it. You know, is that okay? And these are where we're not protesting any of it. It's been a part of what we've created. So now that we're awake, hello, we can say, let's start again. Let's recreate something. Let's do something differently. Let's challenge ourselves to be a part of a holistic experience. Because we were born that way. Perfect. We got placed ourselves in these stories that had vibrations of beliefs and potentials. So, okay, now we're taking ourselves out of those stories. We're not going to be tethered to them anymore. We're going to start doing something totally new, and that's okay too. It's all perfect in between. There's nothing wrong with any of it. These are the potentials that we need to start talking about. And because that talking and that communion and that sharing, wow, here's an idea. And you just go, because each and every one of you, again, are coded with gifts and inspirations and experiences that are ready to say, wow, that's what I'm really excited about. And that's now why I know why I'm here to be a part of this. And that's what source, and that's what all of the channels and all of those that channel, that's our main priority and our purpose, so that we share. And in that sharing, people awaken. And in that awakening, people create. And in that creating, we evolve. You see it? It's a part of the whole. Every part is needed. Every person is needed. Every experience is needed. It's not one that's not needed. And we're going to transform all of our systems so that we do allow them to be fully transparent. And they're glowing just like this. Glowing, because that's what we want. Don't we want our children to be glowing? Of course we do. That's what Source wants for us. Just have fun, start glowing. You're here to shine. Start sharing and shining. That's how you come up with these beautiful, brilliant ideas. And in the middle of the night, you wake up with this, epiphany. Eureka moments. So again, so they were just saying, how often do each of us, as soon as we get into this, the working world, if you will, we just give our power and our money away to say, well, they've got our social insurance numbers, we pay taxes, and all of these smoke and mirror systems. Nobody really knows what's going on in the core of them. And the same with healthcare. So they were saying that we're giving our power away to all of the stories that we were created within, that, oh, well, when you get sick, you have to take the drugs and you have to do this and that in all of these medicine and experiential ways. We're just giving this as an example. It's not the blanket statement, because it's not what we're offering. We're just giving this as an example, is that you will become the victim of that illness or sickness. Well, no, if you're in commandment of your consciousness, that consciousness directs that illness that you have co-created and manifested. And so too are all the systems. So if our consciousness is raising, then we are absolutely raising our consciousness in the elegant systems of Source. And if the stories that we were told that we die when we're 89.75, no, that's not my story. Somebody else's story, not mine. I don't have to take all that on. Or a genetic disease that happened to your grandfather and your dad's dad. And well, no, that's their story. It's not mine. I can choose the direction of my DNA and who I am. And if I get it right with Source, then I start working on clearing out those densities and those beliefs. Because that's a lot of where those illnesses that we manifest, because we've given ourselves those blockages. And that's all the illnesses are. They're blockages to the light that's in the cells, should be in the cells. And so we can look at it in an infinite number of ways, and we're not blanketing any one thing, because it's not to be done like that. As we've said in often all of our shows, that when we talk about health and wellness and balance, because we are multidimensional beings, physical, mental, emotional, etheric, we are spirit creating matter, multidimensional magnetic beings that are aligned with our planet, that are aligned with the moon, that are aligned with the sun, and all things in between as Source. As every cell within us awakens and we start taking that divine consciousness commandmentship of who we are as light, as the Christ consciousness, we are threaded within the all things, as the light consciousness groups of the councils were showing me. That as your community and your collective is awakening, we are threading you into the galactic community of light, through which, thank you, Spirit, thank you, councils of light, thank you. Thank you. So again, our etheric chambers are open. So when we're talking in these chambers, there's many, many, many infinite conscious that are with us, right? Thank you. Hi. We're just recognizing them in this space right now for being with us. Thank you. In which we are going to be a part of the galactic and universal community of light, through which, again, micro, macro, in the systems that we are co-creating and being inspired to create. Thank you, with great reverence and respect to all of beings in the councils of light. The Star Council, thank you. Star Council, thank you. Galactic Federation, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, systems of light. That we will be a part of the grander galactic and universal systems that many of us will do trade with other planets and other systems. We will be the ones that will be helping other planets ascend. We will be the ones bringing our ideas, the studies that we do with how our bodies are moving through ascension, how our hybrid children and our crystalline children and rainbow children are moving through the wellness of their bodies with ascension. How can we create these systems to other planets that are going through ascension in the near future? Do you see what we're saying? Micro, macro, we're being threaded in a multidimensional way that's far more than what we are. This is why we have to often think of ourselves as the micro, macro, all of source, because you're far grander than you thought. Your inspirations and your creativities and your excitements are far grander than you thought. And you're going to be creating and honoring and practicing and devoting and stretching, and why you wanted the experiences that you did in your life, because you might be in 20 years going on and off world, helping other worlds, doing what you're doing because of all the experience you wanted yourself to move through. And also stay here and help planet Earth renew herself of her spirit, because we've depleted her in every way. See what we're saying? So there's far more elegant experiences than we often understand, but we are here to inspire you of that. We are here to remind you of your vastness of yourself as a soul. And how can we get excited? How can we know that we are the consciousness of all that we are, and the micro, macro of who we are? We are a divine benevolence to create greater wealth and greater health and greater balance and greater unity for all that we are becoming. How can we become this beautiful system of this organic system that is of the benevolence of the all, so that the all are served? The natural gifts that you have will serve someone else, and their natural gifts will serve someone else, and everybody in between is served, because that's source. Source will ensure that we are each inspired as we're living in truth with our higher self transparency. We're going to get that idea that if something didn't work the day before, Source will make sure, and our teams will make sure, and our higher self as we're living will give us that idea to bring in and make that system more smooth and more balanced and more appropriate and more greater good serving. It's a natural, elegant experience. So we wanted to bring this forward to each and every one of you, for those who so desire to begin being inspired and being excited. Remember, we don't want to remain in the bottleneck. We understand about the vibrational stories. We understand our soul's themes to heal, transcend, for our lineage, for our Akash, for our collective. All of these stories that we don't want to choose to be tethered to anymore. And allow yourself to also know that no one can tether you to any of those stories. As long as you've learned your lesson, you're acknowledging it, you're accepting it, and you're allowing it to become something new, you get to choose your new vibrational story and co-create in the way you choose. And then ensure that your teams are helping you, releasing any and all cords and all bindings that you feel connected to of other stories that you're trying, to move yourself in a new direction from. And you do have that ability to do that. And releasing yourself from those karmic stories that don't necessarily serve you. And again, it's all good in between. There's no right or wrong. It's all right. They're just our varying experiences from where our perspective shows us that we want to insert ourselves within to fix it and renew it, and to see it from a different perspective and heal it. And they're all purposeful. It's all for reasons. It's all a divine experience. There's nothing that's not divine along the way. We're just remembering ourselves within it now to say that it's not outside of me. I am it. So let's create in goodness and goodwill. And so we have our links below for our weekly World Ascension classes. Thank you so much. And in those Ascension classes, as we've mentioned, we allow ourselves to remember who we are as multidimensional beings, and we focus on the alignment. We focus on aligning with our soul star chakra and our Ascension star energies. And we work with our teams and our guides. And we also work with, daily self-care. And then we're also doing a bi-monthly divine feminine moon wisdom, healing, and leadership class for those of you that are really excited to activate your shamanism, activate your divine feminine energies as leaders, as teachers, and as healers. And that's a bi-monthly class on the new moon and on the full moon every month. And then our private intuitive healing sessions. Our glyphs are doing really, really well. Our healing glyphs are doing really well. So just be patient with me, because I've had a really busy week with teaching and global webinars and private sessions. So just be patient with me on getting those glyphs out. And I've just so adore your feedback. the feedback that many of you are writing in are so personal and so emotional, and I'm so blessed to hear about your emotional experiences. Oh, and I wanted to give you a story. Thank you, Sacred Tribe. They're reminding me, as I was doing some of your glyphs yesterday, is that some of you out there that are waiting for your glyphs, you're going to receive them. But this is the experience I had while creating your glyphs, and you're going to be so excited. And I've been going through these activations this week. As I was creating these glyphs yesterday, and with my beautiful Orion, I'm sure it was because of my Orion teams, they're wanting me to have more intimate experiences with my work, and be more intimate with spirit in that way. Is when I was creating it and I put it down and I turned it off, I guess I was on there for about an hour and a half, just doing these different glyphs, you know, hopping from one glyph to another glyph and another glyph to another glyph. And when I get into those experiences, I just want to show you my experience of what I am as a conduit and how I feel. I really get excited about what it is that I'm creating, because I'm imagining myself as the energy that's flowing through me, and I just start creating it, and they become these beautiful little symbiotic pictures that are just creating themselves, really. And in this experience yesterday, just as I was ready to sign off, I was feeling this energy that was coming down, as I feel the councils of light do with me, and the mother and father energy as I'm weaving it in and out of Gaia consciousness and the collective consciousness. I started to become the glyph, the light language that I was drawing. And in the vision, as I had my pen, as I was on my iPad and I was doing the glyph, I became the pen and the light language itself. So they were showing me that I am becoming the light language of what I am doing. And it was incredible. It was like I was this human-sized glyph that was being made through the energies of the spirit, and it was just it was so cool and incredible. And so those glyphs that I'll be sending out this week are going to be part of that experience. So it was so profound and so cool. And so those are just some of because I am a consciousness of the Christ, and I'm able to feel things at different levels. And so it's really exciting for me that I get to move about these co-creations with you in new ways for me, because it's such a passion for me to create for you, and for me to be a part of that from source with you, and for you to open up within it. And they're also reminding me that when you're working with your glyphs, remember that glyph changes as you play with it, because it's a multidimensional inserted energetic infusion. So you begin playing with that moving picture and that moving energy with you, and it becomes that living song with you. So just know that. And that's with anything. That's like your crystals. They're living consciousness, if you so choose to infuse it with that. And so that's really lovely and exciting, and why we have those emotional connections with you. We're so grateful. We're so very grateful. And thank you for tuning in with us. And we love you so very much. And we hope this hasn't been too long. And those that would like to donate and connect with us, all of our PayPal link is below. And so we adore you, and we're looking forward to co-creating with you again. And we thank you so much, the councils of light and all the angels and all of the beings of our light, for the highest benevolence of our greater good. And we honor you, and we thank you. Thank you, dear lighted ones. Namaste. Bye. We rainbow you. Don't forget to rainbow. Rainbow tickles. Bye.